Oh, right. All right. Let's have this convo. First things first. Let's do what we do. I'm Kirk Kennedy. Welcome to CNN. Let's go in. I'm not sure what you all think about this. All right. So I wouldn't consider myself a content creator, even though I am. And maybe because I tend to think the content creators are people who have bigger platforms. All right. But I've noticed a trend. And let me just say, full transparency. When the whole red pill thing started, I took the blue pill. Let me explain what I mean by that. I realized quickly after observing clips of some of the shows, like guys like Fresh and Fit and different people, Andrew Tate, all of it. I realized that in many ways, what the red pill are a bunch of guys who really couldn't get girls, were rejected, they're bitter at it, and they get a YouTube channel and they gain some influence from other guys who are largely bitter, ugly dudes, bitter, couldn't get girls, weren't cool in high school type of thing. And now they got a platform because through social media, you can just gain a platform. And so they're just dogging girls out, just mocking them, all this stuff that guys wish they could do who got hurt. They're just a bunch of ugly dudes who got hurt. That's what I largely felt like the red pill was. Now, there were things that were helpful. I think a broken clock is right twice a day. So there are things that are helpful sometimes. I mean, there are times, even as a believer, there are things that non-believers say to me that are actually helpful. But as I watched this red pill movement, that's pretty much what it was. It was just a bunch of dudes who couldn't get girls before, and now they got a platform, and now they're mocking girls on their shows that are pretty, which they're probably trying to have sex with after the taping is stopped, right? I just thought this stuff was like, I'm not paying attention to this stuff. And it's mostly guys. But then there were some women who actually took on the red pill kind of ideology. And one of those is a girl named Just Pearly Things, all right? And she pretty much goes hard at women just like some of these other red pill people do. And I'll be honest, there are things that she has said. I don't watch a lot of her content. I didn't watch hardly any of Fresh and Fits or Aubin Preach or any of these people, Andrew Tate. I just watched it enough to be able to make videos. And there are times they say things that are legitimate. There are times they say things that are true, you know. Non-Christians can say things about Christians that are very true. But I noticed a trend with a lot of these red pill people, particularly Just Pearly Things. And this isn't really about, it is about her, but it's about people like her, and she's the most known that I'm aware of. Here's a trend, because a lot of the red pill talk, Andrew Tate, all that stuff, a lot of that talk was about relationships and relationships between men and women, largely. And they would go back and forth about what it is. A lot of it dogging women or dogging simp men and all this stuff. And all these people became experts. But then I started to notice something, and I noticed this more with Just Pearly Things. There's a lot of talk about marriage. A lot of talk about marriage. So I recently saw a video of hers talking about, I think it's Nick Jonas, who's getting divorced from Sophie Turner, actress. And then I recently saw one today about Young Jeezy, who is divorcing Jeannie Mai. And in each of these videos, she's talking about how crappy women are and so forth in marriage and not submitting to their husbands and all this stuff. And as I watched her talk this time, I really had a question for you all. Here's my question to you all. Why do you watch content creators who talk about marriage? Specifically from people who've never been married. Like, I don't get it. And let me explain why. There's a lot of things that you can comment on that you don't have to be good at. You can have a great opinion on sports. You can have a great opinion on music and not like, you can understand rap music and the way things are and not know how to rap at all. You can never have played basketball in your life, but can understand the dynamics of sports. You can do that with a lot of things. But let me tell you why marriage is a little bit different. Marriage, anyone can comment, right? But marriage is different because marriage is I tell people this in premarital counseling all the time. You don't know what you want until you don't get it, right? Like you cannot prepare. Marriage is a unique thing because you really can't prepare for it. You can prepare for the NBA. You can prepare for the NFL. You can prepare for the NHL, the MLB. You can train and do all that. There's not enough training. There's no real preparation for marriage and by extension, parenting. They always say, well, there's no parenting handbook. Well, there's no real marriage handbook either. We have principles that you try to live by, but for the most part, you cannot prepare for marriage because you don't know what you want till you don't get it. You don't know that you're going to be angry when you come home. You've been thinking about your spouse all day. You want to be intimate. Your spouse is tired, wants to come home and just relax and watch a movie. And you have these competing desires and you come home and then boom, you clash with each other. You get in a conflict, right? You really can't prepare for marriage. And so in many ways, when you comment on marriage, you're really commenting from a place of, at best, fantasy. Now, with Just Pearly Things, she's a popular YouTuber, almost 2 million subscribers. And I'm not making this video about her in order to get like some notoriety, like this little fat podcaster is maybe I'll get on her radar and get to, this isn't, I don't do clickbait and I don't gravitate to, like, I don't do this because I need to do this. I do this because I enjoy it. I'm a pastor. I rap. I'm an author. I do other things. I don't need the validation from this platform. So I'm not calling her out for that reason. I'm actually calling you all out who watch and listen to her for this reason. She's never been married. And let me tell you why this is important. Because Just Pearly Things and people like her who comment heavily on marriage and really read just news reports on people who get divorced and weigh in on those things, you've never been married. So Just Pearly Things has no idea how she would be as a wife, right? Everyone thinks they know how they're going to be. Everyone thinks that when you're in love and you get married, they think that the emotions that they have prior to marriage will carry them through marriage. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, wow, I don't have butterflies anymore about this person. Oh, I went the whole day at work and didn't even think about them or really miss them. Oh no. Whereas before you couldn't wait to talk to them. It seemed like when I was in prison, when I was locked up, hours would be like this. It just seemed like a minute took 12 hours when you're locked up. When you're in love and you just can't wait to be with a person, you just can't, oh my gosh, like you're all nervous. But when you get married, marriage is not contingent upon that emotional output. You can't sustain it. And so when you comment on marriage and you've never been married and you're not married, all you have is like Just Pearly Things. She talks about her dad a lot. So she has her parents' marriage. But listen, you are not your parents. You have no idea how you're going to be when you get married. You have no idea how you're going to respond to a husband who's yelling and angry at you. You have no idea how you're going to respond to a husband who's neglecting you. You have no idea how you're going to respond. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of you listen to people like that. And you're taking your cues on marriage from someone who's never been married. Now, that doesn't mean there's not good things that she and others can say, but I got to be honest with you. When it comes to marriage, I don't think listen, I would never, this is just me. You don't got to be me. I'm fat. You're probably not. I would never go to a seminar called How to Be the Best Husband You Can Be or How to Be the Best Father You Can Be if it were taught by someone who's never been married and never had kids. Now, don't get me wrong. We live in the culture where the death of expertise exists. It's a great book, by the way, The Death of Expertise. Experts are no longer experts anymore. Influencers are. So even though this person has no idea what they're talking about, because they have more followers, subscribers than me, like and subscribe, by the way. Hit the like button, smash the like button, as they say. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get it. But because they have more than me, somehow they have more knowledge about the things that I do. I've been a pastor for 15 years and been counseling marriages longer than that. I know a lot about marriage. And I know that sometimes marriages fall apart because not everyone is on the same page. You can do all the things right, as best as you can, and people still get divorced. It happens because marriage is a complicated union. And when I listen to Just Pearly Things talk, she talks like it's just rules, like they don't submit to their wives, their husbands, and they don't have sex with their husbands, and they don't do this, and they don't do that. And there's truth in that. I think there's truth. I think there's truth in that. However, you don't know how you're going to be as a wife. You don't know. Like, to me, I mean, do what you do, right? Everyone's going to make content that they think people will want to see. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you haven't been married for some time and you're not, you don't know how you're going to respond. You think you know how you're going to respond, but you don't. So every time I hear Just Pearly Things or others talk about marriage, I laugh. I laugh. Even if what they're saying is true, it's true by gathering and by data gathering. It's not true from your experience. She has no idea if she's going to submit to her husband. She has no idea if she's going to have sex with her husband. She has no idea, right? So I just think that stuff is crazy. Question from the homie Brandon. Legit question. Wasn't Paul single and preaching on marriage? Could he have possibly been divorced? I don't think Paul was married at all, but Paul had the authority to preach on marriage because he was hearing directly from the Holy Spirit. And if you look at passages like 1 Corinthians 7, there's parts where Paul said, look, I do not have a word from the Lord on this. So speak I, not the Lord. He gave counsel that wasn't necessarily informed by the Holy Spirit. But I think Paul's a unique situation. He's a unique biblical character. I wouldn't elevate Paul as and you're not doing this. I know you, Brent. You the homie. I know you. But for anyone who's thinking, you're not elevating Paul as the standard for why you should do that. Paul had a unique role and a unique call from God to teach the Gentiles and by proxy, Jews as well, about what God demanded. And so because marriage was a part of the lifestyle and what God instituted, Paul weighed in on it. But that's a little bit different than a 21st century content creator who essentially is weighing in on something as significant as marriage, but only has her parents' marriage or stats that you've read from some studies. Those stats are helpful. I'm not saying the stats are wrong. What I'm saying is you've never been married. When you talk with that much authority about it, and you say, well, they don't do this, they don't do that. You talk like, well, you would do the things that you're saying they wouldn't do, but you've never been married to know it, or you've never had parents to know it. You've never been a parent to know it. So again, you can feel however you want about this, anyone. I feel like content creators like Just Pearly Thing, there's just a fascination with marriage that I think is really fascinating to me. There is a fascination with marriage, and I get dating and relationships. I get it, and it makes sense because it all comes together. But there's a fascination with marriage. But the most fascinating thing about it is most of these people have never been married. So those are stats you're talking from, not your experience. I want to hear what Just Pearly Thing says after she's been married 10 years. Talk to me when you've really been through it. When you've had ups and downs with your spouse, when all the things that you thought you would do and believe and live get rattled, or you realize, wow, I'm not doing these things. I'm actually offended. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm all these things. This is why I'm glad that Jesus came. Let me tell you how all this comes back to Jesus. Because Jesus knew that we would not, even those of us who would believe in him, we would not be able to do it perfectly, do it fully. Like God's standard of obedience and holiness is perfection. It's not, grace does not lower the standard. It just forgives us for not keeping it. So the standard is always perfect. And so Jesus knew, even though we're not going to obey him perfectly, we would be forgiven for that because he would handle the obedience perfectly and we would put our trust in him. That's why I hate when people act like Christians don't sin. Man, Christians are Christians because we do sin, fam. We just know that there's a punishment for sinning and we want the freedom that comes in Christ. And then that changes us, right? So I just think, look, these people aren't believers. I get it. They're content creators. But you brother and sister, if you're a believer, be careful taking your cues from people who have never been in the life situations they're so authoritatively commenting on. Now, she can do whatever she wants. Anyone can do whatever they want. I say whatever I want. I get it. I'm just saying, I think it's crazy when you talk about something as complex as marriage, divorce, parenting, and you've never been that. You are not your dad. You are not your mom. You are not the statistics that you are not the opposite of the people that are getting divorced that you're making fun of on your videos. You have no idea what it's like. Marriage is wonderful. Marriage is difficult. Parenting is amazing. Parenting is hard. You do not know how you're going. And also, the Lord will train you so you will fail many times. I guarantee you, if Just Pearly Things does get married, she is not going to keep her own standard. All the stuff that she's mocking, she's not. I would love to see her get married. I bet you some of those videos would all of a sudden turn around and start being like, well, wait a minute, though, but there are some women. Because it's harder than you think. As a matter of fact, on my newest project, I got a song called Divorce as a pastor. Listen to that. This is streaming everywhere. And if you don't have it, you're not a friend of Jesus. And if you're not a friend of Jesus anyway, then you should get it to continue to be an enemy. I'm just kidding, I think. All right, I got to get out of here. Grace and peace, y'all. See you when I see you.